up, let's go! Hey, H4, what you got? 2 mags, 1 grenade. 2 mags, 1 grenade, got it. H4.
3 mags, 1 grenade, 1 smoke, green.
Your sector is from that house to your left, you see it?
Yep.
Alright, to that Hulk on the right, you see it?
Yep.
Roger, dig in.
Hey, you got my security?
I got it, good. Hey, your sector. Dig in.
Yep.
What's going on, gents? Today we're going to be talking about the individual fighting position, also known as the skirmisher trench, ranger grave. We're going to be referencing the Marine Corps Rifle Squad, MCRP 3 Tech 10 Alpha .4, and NAVMAC 3500 44 Delta. You can find the actual step-by-step process in the TNR manual, and then the kind of read between the lines type stuff in Marine Corps Rifle Squad. So we're going to hit that real quick, and then we're going to get to a practical application portion after I'm talking about it. All right, so again, the skirmisher fighting position, individual fighting hole. When we would utilize that is, say, after an attack or after offensive operations, we think the enemy might launch a counterattack. We are then going to dig in. So once we've conducted actions on the objective, we've pushed past, we're wearing our assault load. We've also referenced that back in former videos. We whip out our E-tool once security is set, and then we immediately push into digging our individual fighting position. So what is it? So once we've accomplished action on the objective, we've pushed past, and we are now starting to set into our security plan. We are going to dig those individual fighting positions while your other guy to your left or right is holding security. This position is just a hollowed out position. It could be an old mortar strike, an old arty strike. You're hollowing it out. You're basically trying to get yourself level to the ground, and it's supposed to protect you from direct and indirect fires. That's mainly like the purpose of it. I believe there are some publications out there that get into the specifics. It mainly just needs to be as wide and as long as the individual is, and also just include a grenade sump. This position is supposed to get you to your 2-man fighting position. So let's say, you've conducted actions on, you're digging in, you have one dude holding security in his fighting hole. Once you and your buddy are done digging your individual fighting holes, then if you're going to retain that terrain, you can transition to digging your 2-man. While one dude's digging your 2-man, the other guy holds security in the fighting hole, and then you're going to go from there. It's just going to allow you to be able to dig up those positions. And in a perfect world, that skirmisher trench is going to turn into your alternate or supplementary position. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that, but you never know. It could happen. All right, and as we said before, once that security is set by your buddy, you're going to, according to the TNR mail, trace and outline the trench. All right, again, pretty self-explanatory. You should know how wide and long your body is. Probably the only thing you have to really account for is like just how tall you are with like your helmet on and how wide you are with your kit. You're going to trace the outline. You're going to dig the trench. Obviously, you're going to be digging it with your E-tool, preferably remaining close to the ground. You never know, there could be intermittent fires landing at your position while you're digging, so you just want to make sure you're staying low. You're then going to construct the parapet. The parapet, what that's mainly going to do is help protect you against frag that could potentially land next to you, or a grenade that could also land next to your position. All right, and then the very last step is you're going to camouflage your position. So again, this trench is to get you to your 2-man fighting hole, but you should always be looking to improve your position as an infantryman. So by putting some grass, branches, anything that could potentially conceal yourself is always a good option.
You can always use like your tarp or extra foliage to put on top of that as well for overhead cover.
Exactly. Yeah, if you could put cut down some small trees, maybe there's debris anyway, lay that over your hole, put your tarp over it, and then conceal that with like dead grass, leaves, anything like that. It'll protect you from that overhead cover.
Otherwise, you have like just dirt and grass.
Yep.
Kind of is a little obvious.
And again, this position is mainly to protect yourself, your individual self, from IDF direct fire to get you to your fighting hole or to get you to the next part of your mission.
Right.
All right, now we're going to get to the actual practical application portion of this video. We're going to show you guys what the trench looks like, some tips and tricks on how to improve your position than how to actually live in this position for a short duration of time.
And again, this is a hasty position. This is something that you can do within like 30 minutes tops.
Yep. All right, guys, so we're getting to the practical application portion of the individual fighting hole right now. We've obviously got most of the hole dug. You should be able to get this whole thing done realistically within about 30 minutes. So if your hole's done in roughly 30, your buddy's hole is roughly done in 30, that's about an hour of digging total, and your position should be roughly complete by then. A little bit further on, we're gonna get into some actual position improvement, like putting the tarp over for some overhead cover, maybe putting the Cobra hood in the front to conceal the front to any enemy that are potentially in front of you. And we'll go into detail about how we actually sloped this out and then dug the grenade sump as well. So when we're designing this, again, we want it to be about as wide and as long as our body. This is so when IDF direct fire lands, it completely conceals us from those things. Like if a grenade lands 5 feet away, 10 feet away to either side, we can just get low in our own individual fighting position and then be totally safe from those impacts. Ideally, this parapet is built up to also provide some cover. Just key thing with that is you want it compact. You don't want it loose dirt. The more compact it is, the more it's actually going to protect you. This position right here, you can also move the parapet around to where it actually blocks off your sector. So if your sector is from 30 degrees to 60 degrees, you can move that parapet either left or right to match up with that. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. My buddy here is going to demonstrate the pick portion of the E-tool. So go ahead and make it sideways. So with your E-tool, you can make it a pick, and then you can also just make it a shovel. Ideally, when you're digging your hole, you're going to go pick first, loosen up the dirt, and then go to shovel mode, and then shovel out all that dirt that you just made loose. It's also better to work from front to back. So you dig your hole pretty shallow towards the front. At the very end of your fighting position, it should be roughly 18 inches deep, also just depending on the height. And you want that slope. That way, if a grenade gets thrown in your hole, it can go straight to your grenade sump, and then you can either jump out, throw some extra dirt on there, just get away from the grenade, but your grenade sump should be roughly about as long as your E-tool itself. And again, this position is to get you to your two-man fighting position or to allow you to just continue moving on with your mission. So say your unit's halted for a long period of time, this should be something you should be able to do within 30 minutes to give you a little bit more extra protection and survivability for your mission. So now we're going to get into concealing the front. We can use the Cobra hood. Again, Cobra hood has a lot of uses. This one's already pre-vegged a little bit just from a last video, but it works pretty well. From an enemy's viewpoint, the front of this position is now pretty concealed. We also have our tarp. So our tarp, if we just want to lay out a few sticks that we find, we can lay the tarp over us, give us a little bit more concealment. It's going to conceal up all this dirt that we've made loose. And then we can go from there. I personally like to attach my own bungees to the corners. Just gives me better attachment points. So we can drape the tarp over our hole. If we have a stick to give it a little bit more rigidity, we can do that. It just really depends. And you're not supposed to be in these positions for very long. There's only so much you can do to improve an individual position. Ideally, you're transitioning to a two-man fighting hole. Quality of life is better in a two-man fighting hole, mainly because of the security and rest cycle. In a two-man fighting position, you can very easily transition from security to rest. As opposed to the two-man, it's very hard to make sure that that other guy next to you is awake, especially if he's like 15 meters to the left or to the right. Yep, and then again, hasty position, it's not going to be the best option at the end of the day. This is just to get you to the rest of the offensive operations that you're doing or to a two-man fighting hole. Typically, in a lot of units and a lot of the way I've heard it said, is this is like a hasty fighting position and the deliberate fighting position is the two-man fighting hole. All right, guys, so that's the practical application portion of the video. It's pretty simple. It's just digging hole. There's really not, you can't really mess this up unless you just didn't do a parapet, you didn't dig your hole at an angle, you didn't include a grenade sump. It's a pretty simple idea, but this is very simple training that you should know how to do at the entry level. If you guys have any questions on anything, you think you have a better idea of how to do this, please let us know. We'll see you guys in the next video.